Market's crashing, folks, but that's where the great opportunity lies. And now, yes, I say it with full confidence, great opportunity, because we have different factors. But first, I want to make it clear that I won't be able to do a live stream today. It's raining too much here. Just search on YouTube, on Google, rain Rio de Janeiro. Wow, it's raining heavily here. Several places are flooded. I was without power here for about 5 hours straight. Stalling, stabilizing. Anyway, that's why I won't be able to do a live stream today, but I can release the video. It's 8:25, probably around 9 something, you'll be seeing this video. And we have the following scenario. Bitcoin, $83,000. I'm going to put it on the S&P 500, nay, BTC dominance, and the VIX, right? We have, various confluences for different facts and situations. For example, I'll start with the S&P 500. So when I come to the S&P 500, this here is the famous crash, okay? Crash is a sharp, abrupt drop. When we talk about a crash in the S&P 500, we're talking about a drop of more than 5% in a day, okay? Normally, right, people already use this term crash. Why? Why such a low percentage? Because of the market capitalization. So you see here, just yesterday, right, we dropped around 5%. I'll put it there correctly, it was this drop of 5%. It's very rare, man. We're talking trillions of dollars. To give you an idea, it's $30 trillion. 10% is 3 trillion. 5% is 1.5 trillion. That's the entire market cap of BTC. So yes, we use the term crash. It's normal to have volatility, 2%, 3%, that's normal. Now it started to extrapolate so much so that today there are mechanisms to close the market. If it starts to drop more than 5%, the market closes. Yes, other companies are melting down, not just the S&P 500, okay? Here's just one, the first chart I want to show you, okay? We saw that there was a bearish pivot. We are moving towards the S&P 500 target and generating beautiful opportunities. Perhaps it's the last opportunity with such an intense drop since 2020. Of course, it won't stay. We won't have such a prolonged drop. Don't think the market is going to die now, because that's not going to happen. Money is changing hands at this moment. People are selling in panic. You're not going to do that because you're an intelligent person, right? Of course, we've been expecting highs since January, but now the scenario is perfect as we had seen before. And of course, our greed ended up leading us to paths where we didn't wait for this moment. And it is indeed happening. But what moment is this? We have a drop in the S&P 500 after reaching its target, which we saw was here, between 6,000 and 6,100 points. We hit the target, and we are experiencing a correction of all this movement. So when I apply a Fibonacci retracement here, being the first movement, it's very close there, around 5,000 points, a little below 5,000 points, possibly reaching up to 4,650. It would be completely normal at first. Why? Because we are here within the previous peak. Any value here in this region is completely plausible. But BTC is holding on. However, there is a confluence with the VIX. So notice, back here, right, we have here, look, weekly chart from the end of February to March 20th, we had drops in the S&P 500. Practically a month of decline, right? If we look here, from February 24th to March 16th, a week earlier, right? So we fell for 3 consecutive weeks in the S&P 500. We could even consider it 4 weeks, right? 4 consecutive weeks, because there's a little doji candle there. But if we bring in the VIX to correlate with what's happening, we go back to 2020, and we see exactly this situation, right? From here, look, February 24th, which is exactly, look at the similarity we have here, right? Look at the candle opening we have here in February 2020 and here in March 2025. Look at the opening. Look at the similarity we have in the wick or the high here of the S&P 500 or the VIX. Very close, very similar. And that was the first week. So yes, we might have another 2 or 3 weeks of rise in the VIX, a drop in the S&P 500, and it's very likely that BTC will drop to $70,000. Very likely retesting the all-time high, maybe dipping a little lower. But now, today is Saturday. We are closing the weekly chart tomorrow, and for the first time since 2020, we are closing with the VIX at 45, which is what we've been talking about, what I've been talking about for a long time. And notice the tone of my voice, the euphoria I have when I say this. It's the first time we are closing with the VIX at 45. This hasn't happened since 2020, since the last big spike of the VIX and the last major drop of the S&P 500 along with BTC. So this brings us great opportunities. I believe we will come here to these wick regions, maybe giving a little nudge here, okay? So I will consider here between 60 and 70%. I believe we will come through this. Let me remove this line here. It's very confusing. I believe we will come with the VIX here between 60 and 70, causing a great panic because we usually aim for the wick regions. Look at the confluence we have here in 2018. We had a spike in the VIX. We went back down here, and then we came back here, look, to close this wick, which I consider a gap. We came back to close this wick, which is exactly what happened here. In 2024, we are coming back to close this wick, and then we will fall like this, slowly. And then, finally, I can say that the season will begin. I believe that between the months of April and May, we will already see increases, and those parabolic rises will begin, which we've been talking about for quite some time. I know it's hard to believe. I'm not saying that altcoins can't fall further, quite the opposite. They are bleeding. Even Aleo itself is dropping another 15%. It was at 19 cents. It's already at 15. It could go to 10 cents. There are altcoins that could fall another 50%, 70% more. We'll only know that on Monday when the markets open, when the futures open. The S&P 500 futures open on Sunday evening around 8 o'clock if I'm not mistaken. Here, Brazil time, 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock it will open, right? So when it opens, we might have another spike in the VIX, but this might create perhaps the biggest opportunity since 2020. Why? Candle closing in these regions, this is very important. We've been waiting for this for several weeks, several months, and only now, when is it happening? So there's no reason for you to be afraid from this moment on. On the contrary, any kind of cash you have, take advantage to start buying while the VIX is in this region, because you won't regret it by the end of 2025 or the end of 2026. All right? Let's consider the end of 2025. Okay? So we are witnessing history. At this moment, it's the same scenario we saw back here, right? We have a spike, a symmetrical triangle, and a breakout upwards. Exactly the same movement that happened here. Of course, with a slightly smaller amplitude, but the same pattern and returning to close the gap, right? We might have in the S&P 500 a drop of maybe another 10%. It's likely, but there's a rotation of money happening, and the exposure to risk becomes much more attractive with the VIX, especially above 60 points. Especially above 60 points. But considering the regions we are already in, historically, looking at the monthly VIX chart, man, whenever the VIX hit these regions, we had great opportunities for the coming years. You can see here in 98 we had, look, until 2002, 2001, when the VIX spiked again, it was 3 years. After 2001, 2002, right? It was around 2001 and 2002 when the VIX spiked in that same region. Then we only went there, right? We only had fear in 2008. It was practically 7 years of growth. After 2008, 2010, 2 years, 2011, another year, 2011. Only in 2015 was there panic. It was 4 years, right? 2015, 2018, 3 years, right? 2018, 2020, 2 years, and now, since 2020, only now are we returning to this VIX region at these levels that I usually call the stratosphere. But it's very important, right, for us to see that we are on a green monthly chart. We have until the end of April to reach the maximum and leave a wick, which is what always happens, right? And what will be this maximum on the VIX? Well, if I were to take some kind of upward pivot here, we would take this movement from the last little peak. We are here at the first target here, 46 points. Notice that the most likely target, we come here to 62 points. So 62, 65. That's why I'm considering between 60 and 70 on the VIX being the perfect region for an all-in. I know I'm already invested. I'm not saying that, but I still have a little bit of cash, very little, that I will wait for the VIX to hit this region of 60, 70, and I will buy everything I can. Why? When the VIX is bull, very stretched, as is the case now, good assets are cheap. And I'm not saying they can't fall further, okay? I'm not saying that. But we start looking at good assets. And I'll give some examples of coins that have a larger market capitalization, okay? So, Leo, which I like a lot, Evo, Say, Polkadot, Chainlink, GMX, OneInk, I don't know, Cardano. All of these that have more market capitalization, good assets are cheap at the moment. I know that many haven't hit the bottom. I know that others are breaking through the bottom. I know, but it means that we are seeing good assets becoming extremely cheap, and the money starts changing hands, right? At this moment, because this is an indicator of panic, it is the indicator of fear. So, if people are afraid, what do you have to do? Sell? No, you have to buy. So, you have to buy. In this month of April, it is the month for major purchases. Man, Samuka. But I'm also in the red in my portfolio by 70, 80, 90%. Dude, take $50. Ooh, take $100, man. And now, it's going to be the purchases of the 3 trades. It's now. I'm going to make a purchase with, maybe during the live session this week, I'm going to do the $50. I really advocate for the 3 trades, right? I really advocate for the 3 trades. So I'm going to try to do right, because we don't know if it will happen. The 3 trades from 50 turning into 500, 500 turning into 5,000, 5,000 turning into 1,000,000. Can it be done? Yeah, 5 million, right? 500, 500, 5,000, 5,000, 50,000, right? 50,000, 5 million. Look, $50,000, right? So we are going to try. But I might buy, maybe let's see how the VEX performs here. But once it starts reaching the 60 region, I already think about making purchases. I won't wait to see it explode, because it's very likely that what happened back in 2020 will happen again. So when I put up the BTC chart here, I'm not going to look at altcoins. My indicator will be the VIX, okay? The VIX is always 500 and BTC to make altcoin purchases, okay? So BTC, USD, oops, hold on. I added the chart here. The BTC, hold on. It's not an indicator, eh? Hold on, BTC, USD, when I put BTC, USD here and take the whole chart, right, Ilse? Looking at the movement, and in my view, I don't think we had that parabolic rise that happened after the crash, which happened here in the CVD. And what's causing this crash? Man, the tariffs that Trump imposed on the countries out there. I think Everyone is following this, right? The United States wants to impose a tariff on China of, if I'm not mistaken, 34%, and China, in response, is also taxing the United States, it seems like 60%, 64%. And Trump is imposing tariffs on every country, and this is causing the crash, causing panic in the markets. But this is good. I don't think this is bad. This is good. We have a history that this always happens. It's the big tariff, isn't it? And this is creating great opportunities. Now is not the time to be afraid. No, don't be afraid now. No, on the contrary, I'm euphoric, folks. I'm euphoric. On the contrary, this is the golden opportunity. It's the opportunity that hasn't happened since 2020. Not even during the bear market drop did we have this decline with the VIX exploding. And BTC isn't falling. BTC is holding at $80,000, $83,000. Of course, I understand that the market is closed. I understand that the VIX should continue opening in the red, and we should force a pullback here. I believe that BTC will stop. Look, it will cease the drop here around 68, between $70 and $60,000. I believe that BTC will come to this region. I believe that Ethereum could go to between $1,500 and $1,300, and this could bring a drop in any altcoin of up to 40%. If Ethereum is going to drop about, let's say, 10%, 20%, right? 20%, $1,400. The altcoins could drop double, 40 to 50%. So Leo, which is the one I like, that I bought at $1, could go to 8 cents, 7 cents. Yes, this is likely to happen, but then it will cease. Then the VIX will slowly fall, and the altcoins will start to soar. Then the altcoin bull market will begin, which, if we look at the history, we first have the rise of BTC, then there is a rotation. So it is very likely that as we put a graph that is inversely proportional, so put the ETBTC here. I come here to the ETBTC, we are at the lows. It is very likely that this guy here will give the mercy spike or stop here, the panic spike, and start rotating to the altcoins. And we start to see this guy finally rising. We start to see the ETD, right? Which is the Ethereum dominance over the altcoins, starting to rise, because we are already at levels here from 2020. We are at the same levels as 2020. Man, this is not going to fall much more, but it should still give a spike to cause more panic, to make people get out. I can't take crypto anymore. Get me out of here, for God's sake. And I'm not talking about the red wallet. I'm talking about the opportunities that are happening now more than ever, especially knowing that the VIX is already a fact. The VIX will close at 45 because it is tied with the S&P 500. So it should spike next week, maybe the one after, right? Today is the 5th, it will close. On the 6th, right? The next one on the 13th. Around the 20th, April 20th, it should start to fall. So notice, it's 15 days in which we will have some of the best buying opportunities approximately. It might be 7, okay? But in the coming days, I would say that these drops we will experience from now on, from the current point we are at with BTC going to $60,000, man. These are the greatest opportunities you will have. Afterwards, you will only see BTC cheap again in 4 years, in 3 years, right? If BTC hits a peak in 2025, 2027, end of 2026 and beginning of 2027. So 2 years for you to see BTC cheap again, you know? So it's creating great opportunities. Once again, BTC putting this chart right here, okay? I believe in a pullback around $65,000, $70,000. It should return there because we hit it 3 times. We hit here, hit here, hit here several times and break through. So we should come back here to validate as a support and move on. So I don't believe BTC will drop below $60,000. It should stay there between 70 and 60. For me, if it hits there, it's a buy. It's a buy. If the VIX hits 60, 70, it's a buy without fear. Even if you buy and it drops by 30% in hours, it's a buy. VIX 60, 70, it's a buy. Hey, Samuka, I have a little cash. Now is the time to buy. Not now. On these days, right? On these days, you can start buying now. I have once again a little bit of dollars, and I'm going to buy altcoins. I'm going to buy an altcoin. I'm going to in the live session, we'll see which coin I'm going to buy. Yeah, I'm even going to do it on BitGet, okay? I'm going to do it on BitGet. But yeah, we're going to try to make the 3 trades. And even if, hey, Samuka, I put in, I don't know, $10,000. Hey, it turned into $500, for example. Man, if you have $500 now, or $300, dude, you're going to come out with an absurd profit. Even if your 10,000 turned into 500 or 300. Believe what I'm telling you? Believe what I'm man, the altcoins have melted down 90%, many to recover. Leo itself, to return there close to my purchase point, today it has to go up almost 10 times. Leo itself, right? About 7 times there. But I believe the project will hit more than $20. It will give me a good profit where I will rotate the money. Evo 2 for it to return there to the point. Several coins, man. SEI was 60 cents now. I had an up to wife recently. Hey, where is she? The LI and several other coins that haven't lost funds. Let me see if they lost like 1. For example, Harmony 1 here. Harmony 1 at 1 cent. It's struggling not to fall, right? Struggling not to fall. 1, the SDT. The SDT struggling not to fall might still give a spike down here because in the last cycle, we always had a trap. We always spiked, stopping everyone out, then it took off. So Harmony 1 is 1. That might even spike below that bottom there, which will be the best opportunities. And for every coin that hasn't lost the bottom, like Polkadot, which hadn't lost it either, spiking the bottom regions. Now, if we look at the past history move, right? Polkadot losing here at 3 POW, 60. Man, here you will have great buying opportunities for this project. Great. Perhaps the best in the next 4 years. This applies to all coins that haven't lost the bottom. Those that are losing, it's part of it. Patience, it might drop another 20-30% and then you just wait for it to come back. Okay? Now, coins that haven't lost the bottom, like these two, Sand as well. I think it hasn't lost it, right? Sand too, look who, even though it had this rise here, making the trap up there, buying here, below this bottom here. Man, they will provide great opportunities. Mana USD. If we also look at Mana here, any value below this bottom here, look, will be the trap. In my opinion, it will be the trap as it was in the past. So, we have no reason to be afraid at this moment. Quite the opposite. Be euphoric when people are afraid. Listen to the tone of my voice, folks. Man, I'm getting goosebumps here, look. Listen to the tone of my voice, folks. Warren Buffett said this, be greedy when others are fearful. Be fearful when others are greedy. And what is the market sentiment today? It's going to break, infinite drop, crash, it's over, the market's money is gone. Is that what's going to happen? Is that what history indicates? Place your bets, alright? On Monday during the live session, I'll talk more about this with you. Alright? Don't be afraid. Be prepared because I can finally say the highs are going to start. They will start. And whoever hasn't boarded, and once again, it doesn't matter if you had $10,000 and it turned into $300, it doesn't matter. If you have $200, $300 today, you will recover all that money and make an absurd profit. Make 2 trades of 10x. Take $200, now you do 10x, it becomes $2,000. Take $2,000, invest in a project with an oversold level on the 4-hour chart, which is what we will start to see when the highs begin. It will turn into $20,000. Right there you will double, besides the money. That depreciated, which will return to those levels. So we will talk more about this over time, when we start to see the VIX dropping. But I would say, this is the last month you will see a drop in the market. After that, it will be an increase finally. Then, look, May will be an increase. June, July, August, September, October maybe. I stop at October. There, 6 months of increase. 6 months of season in the standard. Great explosions will happen. Many people will change levels. Alright? We're together, folks.